I am joined by Peter Bukowski of Locked On Packers and The Leap. Hey, Pete.
Hey, Bart. How's it going, man?
Pete, is Jordan Love good?
You know what's so funny is I was literally just before we jumped on here talking with Zach Cruz from Packers Wire about what a statistically odd quarterback he is. Like I was looking at some of the splits, and he's a top 10 quarterback in EPA per play on first down. He's 7th. He's 13th in EPA per play, so solid on third down. And then like by far the worst quarterback in the league on second down. It doesn't compute. He's a top 5 quarterback in the first half or in the second half, and a bottom 5 quarterback in the first half. Like that just doesn't make sense. He was pretty good the first 3 games. He was pretty bad the last 2 games. I don't know where we are right now, other than we need more time to figure this out.
Yes, we do. And I think that is where I'm coming from. I want to see a full year before I have an answer to that question. You can say like in a game, like that last game was bad. And then so you're trying, but there's games that were good. I mean, the Bears game was great. I still think like the definitive Jordan Love moment for me was when they came back against the Saints.
Yeah.
And that showed me like what you're trying to find out is in this NFL, Pete, as you know, there's like 7 or 8 guys. And then there's 6 or 7 or 8 guys that aren't guys, but get paid like guys because we're not going to get a guy and we don't want to have one of those guys. And we're just trying to at least figure out, is Jordan Love like one of the second tier of guys? Could he be one of the first tier? I don't know. But I just want to know. But then even if he is a second tier, I don't want to pay $40 million to a guy if he's Daniel Jones tier. So they need to figure out a lot. And that's why people coming out and saying, I just don't see it. Like, give me a year, and then I think we'll know. I don't think like if we see a year, Peter, and then we're like, well, give him another. I think we'll know after a year where he is, right?
I thought for sure we would. But I also underestimated, I think, how much the youth of this team would affect everything going on with the offense. And we saw in the first couple of games, it didn't really matter that much. Like they found ways to manufacture offense. Aaron Jones in the second half of that Bears game against the Falcons, they didn't have Aaron Jones. It was Jordan Love slinging the rock and looking really good in that third quarter to give them a 2-score lead. It was the defense that blew it. And then, of course, it was the fourth quarter. Like, it is hard to overstate the difference between what Desmond Ridder did, for example, in coming back from 2 scores against Atlanta, where it's mostly like Bijan Robinson and then a couple nice designed run plays. And then Jordan Love against one of the 5 best defenses in the league, having to throw the ball 30 times basically in the second half and leading the team essentially single-handedly back. That's just a different level of quarterback play. And so those are the moments. Like did just look at some of the quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is an awesome player. He has that playoff win where they came back from 3 scores down against the Chargers, but like
27-0.
What is 4 scores? What is the definitive regular season game that he's played? What is the definitive regular season Justin Herbert game that he's played? The signature moment of his career. Jordan Love already has that, like, I did this crazy come from behind thing against a really good defense already. But to my original point, Bart, like Jaden Reed is going to have 3 missed assignments a game. Dontavian Wicks is going to have 3 missed assignments a game. Luke Musgrave is going to have 3 or 4 missed assignments a game. Tucker Kraft. The list goes on. And it was one thing, and I had someone mention this on Twitter, one of my followers. It was one thing last year when Christian Watson was coming along slowly, and then he can break out in week 10 because they have Aaron Rodgers, they have David Bakhtiari, they have Aaron Jones, they have Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. And we can make a lot of jokes about Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. And guess what? You and I have. But they were stabilizing forces in this offense. And I think I personally underestimated how much chaos that would create. We've seen it the last 2 weeks where I think Jordan Love has felt like he's had to be in playmaker mode. And that's just not right now where you want him. And the young pass catchers are not ready to go there with him.
This whole thing, it just seems like, so we're talking about Jordan Love. And I want to, you want to see what you want to see. And then I was going to talk about how, Aaron Rodgers, 2008, it wasn't a bunch of rookies. It was Favre's team. And then I'm thinking, in talking about Jordan Love, that branches me to Matt LaFleur, because I have a lot of, I'm out on Matt LaFleur. I'm out. I'm just, so you know, I am out. The main reason I'm out is that the things that I don't like that he does that hinder the team are the same things that happened 5 years ago. So we can talk about him. But then as you're talking about this team and they're young and then that's a Gutekunst thing. So you drafted this guy, you put him through an impossible situation, and then when you finally allow him to start, you're there with a bunch of like college interns, basically. I mean, it's a very young team. I don't know. Like, where was the foresight there? Not that they have built a contender?
The foresight was this is what they want. I think this was the intention. I think that
everybody be young and be like little giants out there.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they thought that they could be a little bit more successful consistently than they have been. But I think the point of building the team this way was to have everyone grow together and have everyone be on the same timeline. And that's what they have. But these mistakes can compound. And when you have one or two guys trying to figure this all out, that's one thing. When you have 5 or 6, then it becomes another. Then you add in Rasheed Walker, first-time starter on the offensive line, and you're shuffling other guys along the offensive line. Zach Tom is a first-time starter for as talented as I think he is at right tackle. And so there's just a lot of youth on this team. I think, like, in a perfect world, I would sit down with Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst and a bottle of Buffalo Trace, and I would get to the root of what exactly the goal of this year was. I don't think they went into this year going, we can win this Super Bowl with these guys. And so that's where your idea of, well, this is a Gutekunst problem. No, this is a feature, not a bug. I think they designed it this way. And whether or not it works is going to be ultimately on Brian Gutekunst. I believe they expected it to go more or less how it's gone, with the exception of just getting embarrassed by Detroit. I don't think they expected to just get like punked out on their home field by Detroit, but I do think they expected plenty of growing pains from this group.
Well, bringing them all on the same timeline is a good theory in some sports. Like, that's more like a baseball thing almost.
It is. And what's interesting is it's really not been tried very often. And in fact, the only teams that have really attempted it have done so out of necessity. The youngest pass catching group of the last 30 years, other than the one Green Bay currently plays, is the expansion Cleveland Browns in 1999. That's it. And that team, I don't know if you know this, pretty bad. Did not win games. And so this is an experiment that hasn't really been tried. And I think if you look around the league, you go, well, maybe some other teams should have tried it. Like maybe Carolina would have been better off not signing the corpse of Adam Thielen and better off trying to go a little bit more all in with some young
corpse of Adam Thielen. He's like the top receiver in the league.
He is the top receiver in Carolina because
I'd kill for Adam Thielen on this team right now.
No, Adam Thielen is cooked. He is absolutely cooked. I would not want Adam Thielen on this Packers team because he's taking snaps from Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson and Jaden Reed. I just would much rather have those guys because in a year, if he's taking 40 snaps a game, I don't know what I have in Dontavian Wicks. I don't know what I have in Romeo Doubs. And that's a problem. And so I think that's why you saw, okay, Big Bob Tunyon out the door. Mercedes Lewis objectively could help this team out the door because it's like, well, but what they want is for Tucker Kraft to play that role in a year. And so you got to give football is the ultimate learning on the job sport. And if you're okay not being competitive for a year, if you think it's only going to take a year, then I think this is all fine. The problem becomes, and I mentioned this on Locked On Packers recently, is if you've created too much chaos to actually get a read on what Jordan Love is. If he doesn't think his receivers are going to be in the right place at the right time, and he gets skittish and he goes into playmaker mode, then that becomes problematic and it hurts your eval of Jordan Love. Like, look at Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't trust any of those guys, and rightfully so. Kadarius Toney is never in the right place at the right time. And even if he is, and Patrick Mahomes throws it to his face mask, he could drop it. And so we've seen this with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Backyard football, 2018, great example. Like, I don't trust anybody, so let's just let's just like mess around. I almost said words I'm not supposed to say on the radio. And that's not helpful either. And so it's a delicate balance to try and walk. I think they thought Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson would be able to contribute more to this team than they have. And the same is true for Aaron Jones. Now, in the case of Watson and Jones, they've been hurt. And so that's not really that fair. We'll see what it looks like moving forward.
We're saying all this stuff, like, and then I think about, I was looking at the standings as one does, and the NFC's got, there's five playoff teams. There's the Lions, the Niners, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the NFC South winner, 5 playoff teams. And then the Packers are in a thing with Atlanta and New Orleans and Washington and Seattle and the Rams, and they could be a playoff team. But then they would get smoked by any of these teams. So it's not a Super Bowl year. So that I think, like, some of us, I think all fans, I'm not subtweeting anyone. It's a weird adjustment, because after that Raiders game, if they were good and this was a Super Bowl year, it would be a full week of the horse collar play. Get this back. And we didn't even bring it up. There's no reason to talk about it. Who cares? But the fact that they lost to the Raiders, like, that's where I'm at with this team, is they're not going to be 10-7, maybe 9-8. I don't know, 8-9, whatever. Just don't be like 3-14. Don't lose to the Raiders. If they lose to the Broncos this week, like, what's the point? Don't lose to the Bears. They got that check. Okay. I want to see them, like, I don't know, like, learn and grow. Just show me signs week to week. The way that we're feeling is we're feeling worse than we did 5 weeks ago. That's bad.
Well, but that's only if you assume that over the course of the season, progress is linear and always linear and has to be linear. And I don't believe that. And I think that we've seen that.
So we're on a more like TVA timeline.
Yeah, there's branches all over the timeline. And in the NFL, there's no pruning it. So you just have to deal with what you have to deal with. And so, look, the Packers have to play better than they have the last 2 weeks. But if they play, and I said this on my show, like, if Jordan Love played the way that he did the first 3 weeks for the entire season, I would give him the Daniel Jones contract without a problem. Like, I think that guy who is volatile, but a big play hunter, and I compared to a power hitter in baseball. He might hit 220, but if he hits 45 home runs, who cares? All of a sudden, he's striking out more, not hitting home runs, and you're going, okay, well, maybe that average thing is a bigger problem than we initially thought when he was hitting all these home runs. That's something that I'm willing to entertain now after 2 more games. But 2 more games, Bart, is like the same size almost as the sample of the 3 games that were good. So that just tells you how small a sample we're really looking at here. And to me, this is so much about just like, he's got to get the reps. Brian Gutekunst said it last year. He's done everything in practice that they wanted and needed him to do. Now it's about just getting reps. And I don't think we should expect it to just go up. Like, this is not going to be Apple stock. This is going to be something much more volatile. And part of that is to the point that I made earlier about all these young players. Like, you're just not going to get consistency out of Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave and Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks when your whole offense is that, and it's certainly not AJ Dillon. We know what that looks like. Then, it becomes harder for Jordan Love to be consistent. If we're still going, what's the deal come like Christmas time, then I think you have a problem.
So I'm out on Matt LaFleur. Are you? Does that?
I don't know what that means, Bart, because this is a guy who won 13 games 3 straight years. Like, that just doesn't happen.
So Matt LaFleur, the way that I am feeling about
you
LaFleur,
even say it so disdainfully, Matt LaFleur.
What should I say?
I know, it's just the way you, for whatever reason, the way you say it,
LaFleur.
There's a flourish. There's a LaFleurish at the end that just makes me go, ooh, Bart hates this guy.
Peter Bukowski. Okay, so MLF.
Yes.
It's the Coach Bud pattern. Coach Bud. Oh, we should fire Coach Bud. Why? He's got this record. He did this. He did this. He did this. Okay, well, the problems that he's having in year 5 are the same that he did in year 1. And that, I just feel like, I don't know. You
Well, but
can't.
that was
Not
true
everybody.
of Coach Bud, and then they won the title.
Yeah, they win in spite of him because Giannis.
Well, I mean, I think he deserves. Well, we don't have to get into the. I mean, I'm sure you're.
Oh, Bud deserves. There's some credit. Bud gets some of that pie. Okay. Yeah,
for sure.
LaFleur. I just don't think he is a coach. I think he's I don't even want to say coordinator. Like the league right now, I think there's more. Here's where I framed it earlier this week. Coaching football used to be this like only a few people had this wisdom. Only a few people could unlock the secrets of what football looked like. And then kids started playing Madden and people started looking at, there's this all 22 tape, and then other people started breaking down film, and coaches will still always say, you don't know what's going on in that play. You can't know, you won't know. The fact of the matter is we kind of do.
Yeah.
Like it's not the 32 best coaches in the world are not the 32 people that have these jobs anymore. And the lack of, this is not just a LaFleur thing, this game management stuff where it's not even like they do the wrong thing. It's they are presented with situations that they are stunned. They have to process. Oh God, a 4th and 2 with this much time on the, like, what do I do? Like, how do I treat this? There's a lot of that in LaFleur, I think. And, I got on him when he was crying at halftime, but I don't know. I don't know that he's the right guy.
So it's so interesting that you say that to me, because I feel like in a lot of ways, Matt LaFleur is better suited to a team like this temperamentally and from a skill standpoint than he was for the 2019 team, the 2020 team, and the 2021 team. Those were veteran teams. My impression of Matt LaFleur is that he is a teacher coach. He wants to explain, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is why we're going to do it. This is all the cool stuff that we're going to add to it. And then this is the layer we're going to add later. And let me explain it to you and teach it to you. And we're going to talk about technique and fundamentals and all that cool stuff. And I think he's potentially very good at that. I was surprised at how good he seemed to be as a culture setter, a tone setter. I mean, I talked to Billy Turner about this, and he spoke about it unprompted. And if you've ever heard Billy Turner speak or talked to Billy Turner, he brokes no BS. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to tell you what he feels. He
nailed the Sean Payton situation perfectly.
Absolutely. And this is, he unprompted brought up to me, I had not been in that locker room. He was a free agent when Matt LaFleur was that first year. And he was like, Matt walked into that room and commanded the attention of every single person in that locker room and said, you guys have done things a certain way here. You're not going to do that anymore. We're doing it this way now. And everyone said, okay. And that buys, like, just however he did it, there is an aura. Football players have been coached by charlatans, and like, there is no bigger group of charlatans on planet Earth than college football coaches. Maybe high school football coaches. My point is, Matt LaFleur, if he were a phony, I think the players would be able to smell that. And if anyone could smell that, it would be Billy Turner. So I believe in Matt LaFleur, the culture guy. I think that's an important part of coaching. I think John Harbaugh makes a living on that. He won a Super Bowl doing that. Mike Tomlin in a lot of ways. But you're right to point out, like, 4th and 2 in plus territory. Why are you calling the try and get them to jump off sides and then take the delay of game and then punt it thing? Like, why are you doing that? Why at the end of the first half against Atlanta are you going to attempt a field goal and then you take the delay and then it's still a makeable field goal and you still don't kick it? Like, some of those decisions, we didn't see those issues the last couple of years. And I think part of that is because he's got more responsibility on the sidelines. He's coaching these guys up in a different kind of way. It is the inherent conflict between being the play caller and the head coach. So I think in some ways I want to see more of Matt LaFleur in this scenario. In a lot of the same ways, I want to see more of Jordan Love in this scenario, because it's just such a new thing for him to have all these young guys and to be constantly going, okay, I don't know what we can hang our hat on this week. We're going to try this. And I don't know if these guys are ready to do this. And I need Luke Musgrave to be able to block this defensive end, but I don't know if he can do that, but we need him to. And so let's just go see. And then we get into these questions, Bart, about, like, are the Packers putting their young players in bad positions, or are they just asking them to learn on the fly? And I fall very much in the latter camp, but still, you get judged in the NFL based on whether you win or lose, not whether you like gave it your God's honest try. Like that's just not how this works. And so they're going to have to do more than just give it the old college try. They're going to have to start producing, or I think you're going to get more of these Matt LaFleur questions. You are not the only one. You're not the only Packer fan who's going, yeah, get this guy out of here. I'm done. I don't think he has it. I do think he has it, but I need to see more too.
Fan is short for fanatic. That's why I feel that way. So to sum it up, the Packers are going to have growing pains because they're a young team, which was by design. So I guess this is what we get. I mean, we can do all the pods we want on it, but it's pretty simple. They're a young team trying to figure stuff out.
It does not always make for great content because in 2018, it was very easy for you and I to get on our respective platforms and yell and scream and gnash our teeth and rend our garments and say, this team should be better than this. Mike McCarthy is a moron. Like that team had expectations that had a lot of veterans on it, that has Aaron Rodgers ostensibly in his physical prime still. Now, we didn't know he was dealing with a serious knee injury at that time. We knew he was dealing with a knee injury.
Yeah.
And so this is a different situation. And I think it's also, you tell me if you feel this way. I find it sometimes difficult to talk about this team because in August, everyone was so excited, including me. I was just excited to see what it would look like. And I'm still very excited to see what it would look like. And I find myself being blinded by that sometimes. Like I know that there are a lot of fans who are still very much outcome driven, but because I'm so in the weeds on like trying to figure out why is this happening? What is going on here? Are they doing this? How is this working? That I'm so excited to do that I forget that like ultimately your job is to win football games. And I think that's why sometimes I will lose sight of, some of the things that fans do get annoyed with, because I'm just sort of like, I frankly don't care about that stuff right now. And that's just going to be this inherent conflict that comes up.
It's hard being us.
I've always said.
Peter Bukowski. Thank you.
Thanks, Bart.